I've always said, just write down 3 things that you think might be contributing to your carbon footprint. Just track those 3 things for 6 months and then track it for a second 6 months and just see if you can make those reductions. And that's where you start. I'm Cordi Ashwell and I'm the Managing Director of Decordia.
Cordi, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how did you get into events? How did you get started?
So I actually went to drama school instead of university to study theatre design. And I worked as a set designer and prop maker and scenic artist for a few years before I started going to music festivals and then realised that there was people doing some sort of decor and that kind of thing there. So I went and volunteered for 2 summers at loads and loads of festivals with the inflatable church, which you might have heard of before, helping them put up and take that down. And then I just basically got to know a few people that knew I could do set design, that kind of thing. And then started working at Kendall Calling first, which was in 2008.
Lovely.
And then, since then, I've probably done about maybe 50 different festivals. In terms of events, at the same time, I've been doing like live experiences. So things like we worked on the Crystal Maze live experience in London and Manchester. We've helped build the Junkyard Golf Clubs and do all the theming there. And then we do like lots of kind of private parties, corporate parties, lots of theming for things like that. As well as I am still working as a theatre designer in places as well. Yeah, that was my journey into events.
Incredible range of experience there. Is there anything that you wish that you'd known at the start of your career that you have sort of learned and picked up along the way?
I think the thing I wish that I'd known at the start was really how much of my life I was going to have to give to doing this. I probably work 1.5 times of a job, I would say, and I think I have done since I was about 22. When I was first freelance, it took a while to pick up, so you'd have some work and then sometimes you wouldn't have any work. Whereas now, and actually it has been for a long time, even when I didn't run the company, you really do have to give a lot of your time to this. I do a job I love. I don't work a day of my life because I love my job. But I do work all the time. And I would say, I don't know if I'd have made different choices, but it would have been good to have known that when I was younger, that I could have had a bit more fun then and been less worried, because I was definitely going to have my time working hard in the future.
Do you think that's unique to the industry, or is it from being freelance and then obviously being a company founder and owner?
I think a bit of both. I think being in a creative industry, you are working amongst lots of people who are putting their heart and soul into everything they do. And it means that when a project starts to gather some momentum, or whether people need to get something done, no one's kind of in that sort of network of people going, oh, actually, I can't bother to do this tonight. Everyone wants to get it done. And it does mean that I think it creates a bit of a buzz around a project that means that you want to put that extra bit of work in to make sure that, it's right for everybody. At the same time, I'm a company owner and I've got some work to do with restructuring my staff to make sure that I'm working a bit less. So I think it's a bit of both, but I would say that even my time working in theatre, my time working in television, like none of those come without like a 16-hour day attached to it. So if you love it, it's all good. But I definitely have made some sacrifices for my career, I would say.
Yeah, it's the stuff that goes behind the scenes to create these incredible experiences for guests and stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into it. Let's talk sustainability then. We're here to talk about the Carbon Literary Project Certified course, which you've created for the events industry. Can you tell me a little bit about your own sustainability journey and how that sort of has led to this moment?
Yeah, in lockdown, after twiddling my thumbs for a couple of months, I saw that there was Cambridge University did like an online sustainability course. And it was something that I was interested in understanding a bit more about. When I was a kid, I was really passionate about the environment. And there's this famous story that was on the website for a while about the fact that I actually did a sponsored swim to raise money for sharks. And I wore a foam shark fin and swam up and down my local swimming pool to earn money for sharks for WWF. I also was really worried about the ozone layer when I was about 6 years old. So I've always been really worried about the environment and the impact we can have on it. I think just because I love nature and animals and things like that. So when this course came up, I thought, oh, this is really good. It's something I could get my teeth into. And then also starting to realise that it was a bit of a buzzword for a lot of the people I was working with and things like that. Yeah, so I decided to do this course. It was really super hard because obviously it was a university course and I did a creative arts degree with a lot less written work than that. So it was very different. But it was a really great challenge. And what I learned in that 2-month period was that the business case for being sustainable was actually such a driving force, and that actually if you start to embed it now, you'll be ahead of everybody. And that was why when I did that course, what I took away from it. I think after that, I had all these sort of things in my head that I was starting to embed into the company while we were struggling to get out of lockdown and that kind of thing. But yeah, over the last sort of 4 years, we've like just put all these little ideas and incentives and things like that together into our sort of daily work in the company. And now it's just embedded in everything we do. Everyone's on board with it. All the freelancers, all the suppliers know we're doing it. All the clients we work for, we like talk about what we're doing all the time. So it's really become part of our company ethos, and really it's what leads a lot of our key decisions as well. Actually, just before Christmas, I did another Cambridge course on the circular economy, which has given me a new driver, which is of how we can actually work with materials that already exist, that we've already made into things, and how we might be able to look at different clients sharing assets that they no longer need, so that we don't actually need to keep buying new raw materials. So that's our next step, is to see how we can be like loads more circular as a business. So yeah, that's where we're at with our ongoing journey, that we will forever be on a journey. There's no finishing point to this. We just need to keep doing better all the time.
Yeah. It's almost like you read my mind, because my next question literally has circular economy on it. So perfect. I was going to talk about when people are coming to this for the first time, there's a lot of words and phrases like circular economy. You actually started talking about it, about the reuse of materials. But in terms of a sort of easy to understand description, what does the circular economy mean, and how does that apply to events?
So I actually looked up a quote for this just to make sure that I was saying something that was like really suitable and really easy to understand. But circular economy definition is the reuse and regeneration of materials or products. So in our like space, that means reusing things that already exist rather than starting from scratch. It's actually looking at what we already have in a shipping container, for example. And if one year we've got a telephone box and the next year we need it to be, I don't know, a bus or something, like how do we do that? How do we use all the assets that already exist, all those finite raw materials that are in that product? How do we use them again to create something else? And then also about, really for me, it's about deconstructing things that exist into elements that can then be reused onto other things. So we, for example, when we build something, we collect in all of our screws afterwards, like literally all of them come back in. It's one of our staff incentives, so they get cash if they bring back ordered trays of screws. Bringing those back in means that they can then get used 10, 12, 13 times again. Whereas if they were just built into something that we then threw away, that's a whole heap of materials that we didn't need to throw away. We could have reused them. I think the other kind of sentence that I think is really key is design out waste. So that's basically when I sit down to draw something for the first time, I'm thinking, what do we have from that show that isn't being used next year? So if there's a sign, for example, that's built on a frame and we know that we're not going to be using that sign, what part of that can I use again? How can we deconstruct it so that we can use it again? And how can we use the waste product from it for something useful, whether or not it's a biofuel for heating a space for someone in the community or something like that, or whether or not we're sending things to be recycled and turned into plant pots that we can then purchase to use on site. It's like, how do we make sure that everything we buy is helping us solve another problem? That for me is what I understand it to be and how it translates for me. I think in the events industry, it's really key because the events industry, I wrote this down, is actually generates 100,000 tons of waste a year in the UK.
Wow.
So that's vast. And not only is it a vast number, but also people see it every single time there's a festival on. They look at the field and it's full of rubbish right afterwards.
Yeah.
So everybody looks at festivals and sees that they're wasteful even before understanding actually what's going on behind the scenes. So I feel like in events, it's really important that we are really publicly talking about what we're doing to make a difference, because firstly, we want to counteract that impression, but also we are making such a dent on those raw materials. It's things like fuel and things like that, like we need to reduce what we're using. And so it's really important that everybody in the events industry is looking at ways to be more circular, looking at ways to reduce their carbon footprint. And that's, I think, is why it's important in this space. I think there's a real spotlight on it, but equally there's a real opportunity to use events to educate people. Such a massive following on social media, things like that. It's a really good opportunity to tell everyone, this is what we're doing, this is what you could be doing.
Yeah, and then that then translates to what they're doing maybe in other industries as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on. There is a particular focus on it with 5 years from 2030, which is where a lot of the sort of set government goals on net zero and stuff are targeting. Do you find that there has been an increased receptiveness from clients for sustainable ideas and initiatives, or are you still having to make the case like you have now when you're pitching?
I would say I am still making the case, which is disappointing because I really want to work in a world where all my clients are saying this needs to be the most important thing we're doing. But everyone is still recovering from COVID. They're still recovering from, we're in a cost of living crisis, the ticket sales are dropping. So I'm making the case because at the moment it is a really volatile time for events and festivals. I do know, though, that it is built into a lot of their strategies. So the fact that we are doing it is definitely going to be a benefit for us and a good reason to use us as a company, because we found ways of doing it without it necessarily costing more to them. How do we do that where we say, look, we're going to do this and actually it's not going to affect your bottom line? I think that's where I'm sat. I am still making the case. They definitely have built it into the things they want to do, but it's not right at the top of the list because the festival has to sustain itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I had written down what are the key barriers to people in events starting their sustainability journey, but I think you've summarized it really well.
I think, the other thing I'd say, though, about that in terms of the barriers is I think a lot of people, the main barrier is that they're really afraid of greenwashing. And they're so worried that they're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing that actually they think it's better not to do anything at all rather than do something and then find out that maybe it didn't work or it wasn't the right action to take. And it's really sad, really, because actually I think everyone can do something. If everyone does like 1% different, then that's going to have such a massive impact. And that's what we teach in the carbon literacy course, is actually the effect that just one person can have, and then the effect that you can have as a group or even as a community. And I think part of understanding about the science and things like that with carbon literacy means that people feel more able to go to a client and say, look, we want to reduce the amount of set that we're throwing away because we want to reduce the amount that you're sending to landfill. In turn, that will reduce your costs and will decrease your carbon footprint. And I think that's the sort of message we want to be giving, and we want everyone to be enabled to then go and have the same sort of conversations because they understand that sort of route from the action that they're taking through to the actual impact it's going to have. And I think just filling in those gaps means that people can feel confident about going to a client and talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found as well, it's like everyone has good intentions, right? People want to do the right thing, but they don't quite know where to start, and like you say, they're then worried
Yeah.
that they'll do something that will then be not the right thing. I had
Yeah.
down to ask you about advice for people at the start of their journey, not necessarily at the start of their career, because like yourself, COVID, post COVID, was a period of reflection for the industry, as a lot of things were shut down. So it might be people, yes, that are just coming in a junior role. It might be company owners, directors that have had that space and that time to think, well, we need to do something about this. Education, I think, is probably key. And then is there anything else?
Yeah.
Should they be starting with small actions, or is it better to actually go away, get the knowledge and grounding, and then move forwards?
I think you can do a combination. We have actually a poster which is called Small Incremental Changes, which is things like swapping your toothbrush for a bamboo toothbrush, changing the cleaning products you use at home, lift sharing, things like that. But then we also, at the same time, one of the things we did at work was increase our recycling. So we get a load of bins from a company called TerraCycle, where you can get very specific bins for very specific things, and then you can get them collected. It's super expensive. It's not a cheap thing to do, but actually what it does is mean that we have a bin now for everything in the workshop. So just that kind of practical element of someone going, oh, I have to recycle this. There's no black bin here. I have to recycle this. I have to choose one of these places to recycle this, I don't know, crisp packet or something. It does have a real impact, and you find that then actually only needing to split into 3 bins at home becomes a lot easier to deal with. So I think things like that is really helpful. I mean, people often talk about recycling as being like not the solution. And I do agree with that, but I also think it's a really good way to get people thinking all the time about their waste. And we also, on our bins, we have like it written down on the back door where you go to take the bins out. It says where all of our rubbish is going. So that actually every time someone puts the bin out, and they have to weigh it, of course, for the data, but every time they put the bin out, they know that black bin bag is going for incineration, carbon capture, for example, or that roll of carpet is going sent back to the carpet company and they're going to turn it into more carpet, etc. So you're constantly educating people through their sort of everyday actions. The only other thing I'd say, or one of the things I'd say that I think is really useful, is collecting data. And people are like really afraid of that. But I've always said, just write down 3 things that you think might be contributing to your carbon footprint. As a freelancer, it might be where you drive, it might be your heating, it might be that you eat meat or something like that, let's say. So just track those 3 things for 6 months, and then track it for a second 6 months and just see if you can make those reductions. And that's where you start. And then the following year you add something else on, then you add something else on. And we've been tracking our sort of waste and our energy for 5 years now. And every year there's new categories. We do have the like for likes, but actually also we're looking every year to get more in depth into the sort of nuts and bolts of the business and how we can make those changes. And I always say to people, like, if you can just track anything this year, then you're on the way to being able to look at actually the impact you're having and how to reduce it. You really can see, oh, I just need to turn my lights off for more often, or I need to not use my washing machine in the middle of the day or something like that. It's really satisfying to see that you've actually managed to make a reduction. And that's where the data journey can start.
I love that. Yeah, I think because you do hear, don't you, recycling's not the thing or offsetting's not the thing, but you have to, you can't let that stop you from doing things that will help. You have to do something to start. I really like that. So yeah, for one tip for anyone listening or watching, just pick one thing, or maybe 2 or 3, and then track it for 6 months. And that, I feel like that makes it, when you're starting this conversation, it makes it so much easier. You're not like, we're going to have to implement all these systems and track everything. It's like, we're just going to track this thing for a couple of months and then regroup.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's loads of software out there that helps you to do that. There's things like Julie's Bicycle that's free as well that you can use, where you can actually use it to start to input some data. It's for events, but you can use it to input data for anything just to actually get that carbon figure. There's also something called Tracker Plus, which I find really useful because it's actually a database that's already full of loads of the things we use, like truss or tape or paint, things like that. So you can type it in the amount you use and it'll straight away give you your carbon footprint. So things like that are available. And once you've started to collect your data, you know, you only need to buy a subscription for something once because you can put it all in and do it all in one go and make that calculation. So that's what I'd say, is just start doing it, and then you're on the road to being able to actually look back and see the difference that different projects have made and things like that.
I like it. Love it. Love it. That's what I'm doing this afternoon. I'm going to go off and do some research. Moving on to the course. So I was doing some research. I believe it's around 780 or 782 carbon literary project courses across 16 sectors that have been created with those specific sectors in mind. Talk me through the process of getting your course, which again is tailored towards specifically events. What was it like putting that together?
So the reason I did that was because I wanted all my team, all my freelancers and my full-timers to be carbon literacy trained, just because I feel, like I said, like it's the first step to being able to see where you can make a difference. I was going to put them all for a course, which would have cost quite a lot of money to put all my freelancers and all my full-timers through this course. So the Carbon Literacy Project actually said to me, do you want to create your own course? And it happened to be that Lisa Sweeting, who is my absolutely phenomenal carbon and sustainability advisor, she's just fantastic. She actually said, why don't we write one together? She works like in a lot more corporate work and I work in a lot of greenfield work. So it was really good to combine our different takes on it to put it together. We sat down for a day and went through the whole course syllabus and what we needed to talk about, and then actually looked at mainly how to make it really relatable to everyone doing it. That was like the priority for me, was that at every moment you understand why that is relevant to you. And like some of it can get quite science heavy, right? So like for me, that's super scary. I was never very good at things like that at school. And so I wanted to make sure that while we talk through that, you're constantly thinking about actually how does that specific gas, for example, come into your life on an event site, so that you're really able to see like actually why switching a generator off would make a big difference, for example. So I think that was the most important thing for us, was that we were making it really accessible and really relevant to all the people that we wanted to teach. The next sort of process was getting it signed off by them. So they take it from you, they do a little bit of advice on things you could change, making it longer, a bit shorter, things like that. And then, then it's, once it's certified, you're good to go. So yeah, we've both had a chance now to deliver our course a couple of times to different people. And yeah, I've got loads of bookings in for the year now that it's like fully up and running. So it's been really exciting, and I love seeing people's reactions as we go through the course, because some of it is really heavy and really hard to hear. It's some of it, you see someone go completely pale sometimes at some of the information you hear, and then to watch their facial expression change through the course while they learn actually how many things we can do and how empowering it is, and how many festivals are doing amazing things and events all around the world are like actually really managing to make a difference because they've been armed with that understanding to be able to talk about it and share it and inspire others as well. I think that's really the key thing with it. That's why I like it. I like inspiring people to be able to find their own challenges and overcome them.
Absolutely. And through the creation of the course and writing it and putting the modules and sections together, have there been any misconceptions about sustainability that you've found that you would want to debunk?
I think I'll go back to the recycling thing, because I feel like I said, like it's really overlooked as people that work properly in sustainability, and like this isn't the solution, because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of carbon to be able to turn things from something into something else. So it isn't. But like I said, as an education tool, it's really brilliant, because it does get people thinking about that journey from when they've purchased something through to when they're throwing it away. And you definitely see that when somebody, for example, doesn't normally work with us and they come on site and they drink, I don't know, 20 bottles of Coke over the week, that the bin is just full of their bottles of Coke. So it's things like that. I think it's a really good education tool. It just gets everyone sort of having those initial sort of ideas about, actually, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I could do something different. The other thing that I would say is that everyone thinks that being sustainable is more expensive. Now, my business is living proof that isn't the case. A lot of us in the company come from a theatre background. So we are from a world where you have no budget, you have to use whatever's there, you have to make it work, right? So that's where we come from. So we're used to going, oh, actually, I could use that rather than ordering a sheet of ply-in or something like that. So that was how we worked anyway, just trying to keep costs down. But actually now we can use those kind of ideas to be able to look at this kind of way of circular working. And I think explaining to people that actually, yes, I pay out incentives to my staff, for example, to collect in cable ties or to collect in screws or something like that. Actually, the process of them collecting screws means that I haven't bought any screws for about 4 years. So it's actually, there will be, if you do this right, there will be massive cost savings. And if I can take a piece of set away from a site that they don't need anymore and turn it into something else, they're going to save £800 on a skip, for example. So there are so many ways that this can be actually cheaper to work in this way. And I think if we can do some shifts around the amount of time maybe that we're given to do things, or very specifics about materials and things, and encouraging some of our sort of more high-end clients to be a bit flexible with actually what we're using, then really this whole process can be cheaper and better for the planet, and it will be win-win. We just need to show everyone that, prove it, I think.
And you mentioned the education piece. So it's education for team and also, as you just mentioned, for clients as well. Social media can obviously be a great vehicle for showcasing that, but I think as well it can also sometimes hinder things in some way. Has that been the case that you've found?
Yeah, I think, again, it's that greenwashing thing. I think for a while, there was a lot of stuff we were doing that was really great, and I didn't dare put it on social media because I thought, God, what if I'm doing this wrong? Or someone's going to say, oh, no, that's not right. You shouldn't do it like that. But I actually very quickly learned that any action that you're taking with the right intention is positive action, because you are trying. And then if it doesn't work, then you can celebrate that fail because you tried to do something which maybe you didn't do before or the next company isn't doing. So I think for actually talking on social media about what you're doing is really good, and being willing to say when it didn't work, because someone might be about to go through the same process and they might be able to go through a whole project employing something you tried and had a success with, and then they've massively reduced their carbon footprint, or they're using paint with lower VOCs or something like that. Like, the more we can use social media to talk about what we're doing, the more we can help each other out. And I think with sustainability, it feels like it's the first time that actually people in the industry it's not dog eat dog with this. Everyone's working together. Like, the more you can share about what you're doing, the more you can talk about it, the more you can put it on LinkedIn, big up all the people that are doing like really amazing things. I feel like that will help us accelerate to all doing better. I think it's such a powerful tool because it's so instantaneous. I feel like it's a great thing to use, and I wish I had more time to put more stuff on, because my team do so many amazing things and they're so clever and innovative, and I think the more we can talk about that, the more we'll help the next kind of design team to being able to take on those challenges and solve them quicker.
Yeah. And you mentioned your team. Obviously, events, it's a team sport, and I guess sustainability is as well. Like, everybody's got to work together on it. When you're building teams for events, are there specific characteristics that you look for, or does it depend on the specific role and the tasks that they're going to be doing?
It is specific to certain things we're doing, of course, but actually The main thing for me is that when someone comes to work with us, even if they come to me and say, oh, I want to be a scenic painter or something, the main thing for me is that if you have a really positive attitude and you work super hard and you try as much as you can with different things that we're doing, that's what I like to have within my business. We're a small company that do loads and loads of different things. I was actually writing out this morning all the different things we did, and just before Christmas, one week we were building a Halloween light trail, and the next week we were working up in Edinburgh in a -10 ice bar, for example. And then now I'm drawing a theatre set which we're going to build when I get back, and then also looking at loads of different festivals this summer. So we do so many different things that everyone not only needs to, but gets to be really flexible and have loads of variety in their work. For me, it's coming in, getting stuck in, saying, yeah, I have this skill, but actually I've always wanted to learn how to drive a telehandler or build, I don't know, a piece of set or something like that. So for me, it's someone coming in and being really willing to try different things out, so that they're not only bringing their skill to me, but also we're giving something back to them as well. And yeah, I think it's such a lovely space when we have this network of people all working together. We're all doing the thing they're really good at, and then the thing that they don't necessarily know so well, but they're all helping each other out. And I'm really proud of that nurturing environment that my team have brought to everyone. And we have lots of people that come in from the community as well that might have different needs, or that might be coming back into work after some time off. And everyone takes really good care of them, and it ends up being a really lovely, balanced environment. And I'm really proud of that. They're a great team, and they do all that work themselves.
Amazing. We like to round off every chat that we have by asking guests about their one amazing experience. So this could be something that you've experienced as a guest, if you've been to a fantastic restaurant or a festival as an attendee. Could be something that you've worked on that you're proud of, or it could be a bucket list thing that you'd like to tick off in the future.
So I would say my most amazing experience I actually had last October, when I went out to work on a private event in Athens, in an old airport in Athens. And I was working as a sort of set dresser there for a company out there. And it was a private party with all these secret parts to it. And it was something that you'd just come upon another area of this amazing, beautiful site. And it was so secret that at one point the Chemical Brothers were playing, and there was only 500 people in front of this massive stage with the Chemical Brothers playing. And I got to spend 3 hours watching the most amazing, super loud Chemical Brothers set with only 500 other people. In the beautiful Greek evening in Athens. And so much of my job isn't about the music, that I really love it when I have these moments where I connect back with kind of the reason I got into it, was because I love being at live events. And yeah, it felt like it was put on just for me, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. It was amazing.
That sounds absolutely incredible. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good.
Where can people find out about the course and also your work as well, if they're interested to find out more?
So if you go onto the website, which is www.decordiaevents.com, and go on to training and opportunities, on there you'll see our course dates, our upcoming course dates, and how to apply for those course dates. We also have 2 subsidised places for every course for someone that's on low income in the Manchester area. So if anybody's interested in that, then just reach out via email and we'll work that out. The other place is to go on our Instagram and LinkedIn. Just keep following what we're doing. What I always say to people is reach out, send us an email, just tell us a bit about yourself, or ask if you can have just a quick chat with me online. I call it a cuppa because it's really informal and just a chance for us to have a conversation about what they'd like to do and what we need. For me, it's so much more than someone sending in a CV, is actually having a chance to have a chat with them and find out what they want to do. There's an email which is contact@decordiaevents.com, which if you follow that one, then you can send us a direct email.
Lovely. And for all of the other amazing, you've mentioned a few sort of references and tools and stuff like that, so I'll put links and stuff like that into the description. But Cordi, thank you so much for sharing your one amazing experience.
Thank you.